Alright, so once you have imported Exploration Toolkit, we can go over how to set things up. So you should have the Exploration Toolkit folder right here inside of your assets, and inside of that there are three folders. Core, which contains all of the scripts and system prefabs. Documentation, which contains some PDFs for the online documentation, but if you do want to refer to it, I do recommend going to the website and reading it up there. It's just a lot easier to navigate around, and there is also the embedded YouTube videos as well. And then the implementation folder, which contains all of the demo scenes and prefabs for things like the doors, locks, lockpicking items, etc., and all the textures and sound effects and 3D models. Now, in terms of required setup, there's only really one thing you need to do, and that is if you're wanting to use the inspect system to inspect items, then you have to set up an inspect layer, because when you inspect something, that gets rendered on a separate layer. So for this, what we're going to do is go up, select a game object, go to the layer settings right here, the tags and layers, and click on this button right here where we can choose a preset. And the toolkit comes with a layers preset, so we're simply going to select that. It's going to add in all of the layers it requires, and then we can exit out. So now that we have that set up, let's go ahead and set up a basic scene. Okay, so here I have my scene layout. This can be whatever you want. This could be your existing game if you want it to be. Now, in terms of player controllers, you can of course use your own, but I do recommend referring to the documentation online about how to set up a custom player controller, as there is a little bit of setup you have to do for the input. But if we go to the Exploration Toolkit folder, Core, Prefabs, Player controllers, you'll see it does come with an included player controller, which is pretty simple, but it does get the job done. In the future, of course, there will be a fully kinematic state-based controller, but that's going to come in a future update, so feel free to use your own implementation. Now, if we were to press play right now, we would have errors. That is because the Exploration Toolkit is built upon what are known as systems, and systems are like the building blocks to add features to your game. The player controller relies on the Input Manager system. Now, these systems, they are all managed by a system registry, which we call the Exploration Toolkit Manager, and this can be found in the Core folder, Prefabs, and then Exploration Toolkit Manager. Drag that into your scene. Every single scene that you wish to implement features from the toolkit must have the Exploration Toolkit Manager. This is a game object with the ET System Registry component, and this acts as essentially a centralized registry for all the different systems. And we define these systems as a child of this object. You can see we have management systems, and inside management systems, we have the Input Manager, UI Manager, and Global Audio Source. And controller systems, which by default is the interaction controller. Now, management systems are things that are not directly tied to the player, such as input, UI management, and sound. And controller systems are systems that directly tie to the player, such as interaction. And the interaction controller, which we'll be covering in a future video, essentially just check to see if the player is looking at something that's interactable, and then it can trigger that interaction. Now, how do we add more systems? Well, what we can do is go to the Core folder, Prefabs, Systems, and here you'll see we have controllers and management. Inside of management, we have all the different manager systems here. Inside of controllers, we have all of these. So for example, if you wanted to implement the ability to pick up items in the game, you would simply need to drag the pickup controller in as a child of the Exploration Toolkit Manager. And then of course you can modify the properties here in the inspector, but otherwise that should automatically be set up. Now let's have a look at a scene that is already built with some of these systems in mind, and it has implemented them in other components. So what we can do is go to the implementation folder, go to demos, showroom, scenes, and here we have a list of all the different demo scenes that you can explore. So let's say, for example, we want to look at a demo relating to doors. Let's open up the doors scene right here. And you'll see here we have all of these door objects. And over here, we have the Exploration Toolkit Manager. Inside of that, under management systems, we have just the default 3, but under controller systems, we have quite a few more. We have a crosshair controller, which essentially defines a dynamic crosshair in the middle of the player's screen, the inspect controller, which we can use to inspect objects, the camera focus controller, which is used for the camera to zoom in on keypads, for example, and the pickup controller, which is used to pick up objects such as this key right here. And again, you can simply click on these and modify all the different properties that you wish. And if we click play, we can test this demo out. There is also a demo that you can play on itch.io. There is a link for that on the documentation. We can play all of these scenes in a nice little interactable menu. So we can walk up and basically interact with this scene right here. And everything that is built with the demos and even the escape room game that it comes with has no real additional code at all. All of this stuff is just with drag and drop components. You can see we are using all these systems. If I click on a door, for example, you'll see it has a door script. This key right here, if I select it, let's go objects, key, you'll see it has an interactable component, a pick-upable component, and these all work together seamlessly. They all communicate with each other, and yeah, essentially, you don't really need any additional code. You can, of course, there are functions and events you can connect to, but do not think that coding is going to be a necessity in using this toolkit. It's really not. I've designed it around drag and drop components with all these properties here, and you can connect up events for things to happen, of course. So that is a look at the setup for Exploration Toolkit. In future videos, we're going to be going over all of these different systems, but in the meantime, I just recommend trying out the demo scenes as they really will give you an understanding on how things work.